we're recording.
We are? Awesome.
Okay, so I guess. Welcome to Deer2Deer, the podcast where we talk about things and stuff.
Things related to furry stuff, things related to relationships, friends, all that good stuff. And then some more niche things like Second Life in general.
Yes. Let's see. Mostly, I think this podcast is going to be talking about relationships, because that seems to be a thing that everybody seems to have questions about, because it's a very... What's the word I'm looking for? Complicated?
I guess complicated would work.
It's complicated. It can be complicated.
Complex even.
Complex even, yes. The reason we decided to be talking about love and sex and relationships, because we both get asked questions about that a lot. So we decided might as well spread the knowledge.
Yes. And introduce ourselves. I guess you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay, so I am known as Sail. First off, to kind of get formalities out of the way, Sail, Kemono, Sail, either works either way. I'm a male that wants to be a female, don't have the money to transgender, switch, just so people kind of understand, where everyone's coming from on this situation. More than just that, I play Second Life. You can find me roaming around most of the stuff in Second Life, having fun, talking with people. And on top of that, I'm part of the furry community. So I'm kind of my hand in a lot of buckets, so to say.
Yes. Best place to have your hands. It has the most cookies. Okay, and I am Cherry Blossom on Second Life. I am JBC Blank everywhere else. In some place you can probably find me as Kira the Fox, but don't remember. I am a cisgendered bisexual female. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all the words that describe me. I am married, and I'm part of the furry fandom. I used to be part of the anime fandom. I'm not quite in there anymore. I'm on Second Life. I draw. And I'm starting to do mods, because why not?
Yay, mods.
Yay, mods. And,
alright.
Yeah, that's basically us. Sale, what would you say is your expertise?
My expertise. When it comes to general expertise, I have a pretty good sense of how to put things together, kind of logical problem solving. I tend to think a lot more of a logical stance on things, so if someone was to come up and ask me a question, I usually take the more logical than the emotional stance. So I'd say I'm a little bit more expertise in that area. But when it comes to actual skills, I do a lot of sound work, for example, in Second Life. You'll hear us referencing Second Life in this podcast a lot, as this is kind of where we're based out of, in a sense.
Yeah.
But to kind of put it into perspective, I make a lot of dancers, a lot of gestures, a lot of bumpers. And if you're not within Second Life, don't worry, you don't need to know what those things are. We can explain those at a later date in the podcast at some other time. So don't worry.
Yes. And let's see, my expertise. My expertise is probably random knowledge. Like, I have a lot of just random facts that I've picked up over the years from different places, and I can usually bring them up in conversation, and there are times when someone will ask a question that my random knowledge is very good, has the answer for. So that's probably my weird expertise. Like, logic, I would say I am logical, but I'm probably the opposite of Sale, where I see more the emotional side of the situation than the logical side of the situation. So that probably, that works good together.
Yes. So you kind of get two different sides of the story, so we kind of have two different points to look at. And then, of course, as opinions are opinions on the internet, you can always form your own and send it up to us after the podcast is uploaded in places where we have found places to upload. And we can always read those and comment on them in the next podcast.
Yes, I would love to hear your opinions because opinions help open up other people's opinions, and it makes us better as human beings.
Better as human beings is a
Yeah, I know.
it's reaching for the stars there.
I like to be
Positive.
even though I'm usually negative in situations. Okay, so let's start this podcast off by looking up some relationship questions on this forum I have here.
The Forum of Knowledge.
Yes, the Forum of Knowledge. This is a forum that I have on my phone. It's a forum that's attached to a program that I use to track my female cycle because of reasons. So, let's go with random. Give me a random number.
Let's go with 11.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. It says stay or go. I've been with my boyfriend for almost 4 years, and for the most part, we are amazing together. And what I don't understand is why things can be so perfect between us, but then if we argue, he can be so cold. He turns into this abusive maniac, treating me like I'm nothing to him. He's the meanest man ever. If we're, because it's not we are, it's we're. If we're in an fight, he makes fun of me, calling me the worst names ever. I could never treat him the way he treats me ever. How come he can? He doesn't care who hears him or that he's embarrassing me, taking away any dignity I have, making me feel like I'm nothing to him. I just wish he would realize what he's doing to not only me, but our relationship. Every time this happens, he's scaring us pert. Hurt of my heart gets little by little torn. What should I do?
I guess I'll go ahead and comment on this one first. So, as a person who's kind of come out of situations in the sense of like this, it more or less, in my opinion, would boil down to if you can open up a conversation with him without starting an argument and kind of voice your opinions, if you feel safe and comfortable enough to do that, it's a good place to start, in my opinion. Obviously, each situation is different, but usually at least voicing opinions can at least create the thought process, and the thought process can usually result in multiple different avenues, but that's a good place to start. And this is more or less general, so if anyone's in this situation, this is just more or less general advice at this point. If you can figure out a way or a good time to start it, to start the conversation, to open up the question where you don't feel like it's going to result in you fighting and you getting, I wouldn't say harassed, but definitely put down in the relationship. Definitely feel like the relationship would be faulting. I mean, put down is another word you can use. Harassed is a word you can use, but it's a word you kind of want to stray away from using.
Yeah, it's more of she's getting hurt because of the things he says during a fight and a little bit after a fight. But she says this only happens when they fight. So maybe a counselor or a couples therapist to maybe see if together you guys can find a different outlet for the thing that is causing your fighting in the first place. Maybe. That's what I would think. I would think that, because she said that they've been together for 4 years, and that everything is amazing except for when they fight. She doesn't say what they fight about. But that he is mean when they're fighting, which makes sense because, they're fighting. And so it's like, if the abuse, quotation marks, it might just be like, it doesn't look like she doesn't say that he actually hits her or anything. He's just probably very verbally abusive to her and emotionally. So if these things are happening long after the fight, then they probably do have to go see a therapist about that, because that means he's holding a grudge longer than is probably necessary. Depending on what the fight was about, of course. If it was like over who ate the last Dorito, then you got a problem.
No, I mean, but that makes sense. It's good sound advice. It's kind of like assessing your situation and just kind of foreseeing different outcomes, seeing which way would work for you. Again, it's definitely in a sense of, you do have to assess the own situation. You do have to take a, to be aware of what's going on. But if you feel that you're safe and comfortable enough to open up that conversation, to get someone to talk about it, again, as therapy or just talking it down with the person, at least talking about it would open up the conversation to the thought process, in my opinion. So
yeah, the important thing is to open up that dialogue and let him know that, without actually bringing it into another fight, that this is something that worries you about your relationship. Like, I myself have never had a relationship where I would fight so bad that it was like abuse. Like, I think the most fighting that I've ever had is in the relationship I'm in right now with my husband, and so it's like, when we fight, it's just like probably 3 back and forths, and then we just both go quiet for like an hour. So it's like, what was the last thing that we fought about? That I didn't want to do something. That was all. I don't remember what I didn't want to do, but I didn't want to do it, and he was using logic to try to make me do it, but I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so by the end, we just ended up like, oh well, it's not going anywhere. And then like an hour later, it was like, I want to eat.
It's like, we need food. We're human beings, ish.
We need food. Yes. So I've never personally been in that kind of a situation. Not even online, to be honest. Like, I've had ugly fights with people online, flame wars and whatever. But, like, something that I could classify as abusive, not really.
Yeah.
So this is something.
Yeah. I guess next question or something?
Next question. Let me see if I can get back to the forums without closing it.
Oh no.
Yeah, this program's a little weird. Ooh, this one says threesome. Well, I'm clicking on that. Okay, it says threesome. I'm interested in surprising my husband with a threesome soon. I don't need advice as to the effects on the relationship. We've both had them before, and we've already discussed our rules for the situation. What I need help with is how do I start talking to a woman about this? We don't want to have any continuous relationship with another person, just a one-time thing, just a night of fun. I was younger when I had my previous experience, a lot more social than I am now. Should I try to meet someone in person or a dating app? Anyone have any recent threesome experience?
Well, I mean that's a pretty interesting question to pull up.
Let me take a stab at it. Like, there's a thing that's burning at me that I have to say. I heard it on another sex podcast, which everybody should listen to, but we're gonna plug it at the end. Never surprise anyone with a threesome. You never surprise someone with a threesome. You just don't. Because what if the person that you're surprising isn't, like, in that mindset? What if they don't feel like having sex at the time? Then you're just going to hurt the third person's feelings. And your feelings. And surprise person's feelings. It's just you shouldn't surprise. This is something you should do together. You should both be on the FetLife. I don't know. FetLife. You should both get on FetLife together, and you should find a third that way, or on a dating app, or a different dating app, or a different dating site, but together, not a surprise. That's wrong.
I would say I would kind of reiterate the same thing, but don't get a friend. Because that's probably one of the worst things. Because then every time you're in a room with that friend, it's gonna be awkward because you know that you've done it with them, and it's just like, for example, it's like like Judy walks into the room, hey Joe, how are you doing today? It's that kind of awkwardness that you don't really want to create with friends.
Yeah, it has to be a stranger, like. It's a necessity. It needs to be either a stranger or a really, really far away acquaintance.
I will say one other thing, just for safety reasons. If you're gonna go ahead and do this, and if you yourself or your partner isn't tested for sexual transmitted diseases or STDs, for those of you that don't know what the acronym actually stands for, is sexually transmitted diseases. It's good to get that checked out, and if you're going to bring in a third person, you might as well ask beforehand if they've ever been checked, and if they haven't, see if they're okay with going and getting checked, just so everyone's safe. And then if you aren't trying to do anything crazy, I would still go ahead and use protection or anything of that nature, as the safer you are, the more pleasurable you're going to have, or the more pleasure you're going to have, and the better after effects you're going to feel, instead of feeling down, instead of feeling like, oh crap, I now have an STD type of thing. It's just, you be safe as you can if you're going to do anything like that.
Totally. Safety first. Like, anytime you're thinking about going into either an open relationship or a threesome or a foursome or an orgy, you should have yourself tested, and everybody involved should at least be tested if you want to be totally safe, and condoms all around.
Yes.
Because what you do with your long-term partner is you can be fluid bonded if you like, but that's not something you want to risk.
Yeah.
Because if you end up with an STD or an STI from one of your partners, one of your other partners, then you're gonna run the risk of spreading it to your long-term partner, and that's just messy business and expensive and stuff.
I will say, while alcohol is it's cool if people can have alcohol and that, I would say that if you're gonna go ahead and have a threesome, I would try and be as clear-headed as possible. So obviously, like go ahead and don't drink too much, like 1 or 2 glasses, or if you know your limits, like, and when I say if you know your limits, I mean like honestly do know your limits. Don't say, oh, 5 glasses is my limit for me. It's like you do have to know it and know when you're up there, because the more clear-headed you're going to be, the more
the better decisions you're going to make.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say the more better, but even though that's how it was going to come out, which is completely improper grammar, but at this point,
the more better, yes, they are the more better decisions.
They just tend to be better decisions. You tend to have better decision-making, faster reaction times. So that's just another little thing I would kind of toss out there.
Yes, both things very important. Like, reaction time is also very important, because, like, if, I don't know, a condom breaks, or a burglar comes into the house, I don't know, you need to be ready for that kind of stuff.
Random burglar during sex. Oh my god.
It has happened to someone.
Not true. It probably has happened to someone.
Yes, it has. It has happened. That's a
poor
thing.
People.
Yeah, the poor people. Poor burglar too, probably. Let's see, one more question, and then we'll do the Secondlife tip of the week. Ooh, this one's good. I'm in love with a married man. I'm madly in love with this guy, but he won't leave his wife for me. It sucks because sex feels amazing. Like everything stops around us and we just touch each other like it's actual love. He feels it too. That's him saying it on his own. I never mention how I feel. I know it's wrong. I have known him longer than his partner, and him got together. Longer than his partner and him got together. She trapped him with a kid, and that's why they started dating. I just really want to be with him. I was cheating on my partner with him, and now since we broken up, I just want him. I know how silly that sounds. How do I get over someone like that? Please, no judging.
That is interesting. So while personally I'm not one for going in and messing with an existing relationship, that's just personally my thoughts and my own opinion is you really shouldn't. But if you're already doing it, then my advice to you would be, if he truly does want to be with you as well, it's gonna sound scummy to say this, but the mind can be manipulated. It's a horrible thing to do, to manipulate someone else, but if he personally feels like he wants to be with you, and if you want to be with him, and if he really doesn't like his current partner, there are ways legally to fix it, which is divorcing and then remarrying of that. I mean, but then of course if you divorce, then there's the whole custody case, and especially with a child in the mix, you do have that custody case that you have to take into account. Who's going to be paying the child support. Sadly, it almost always does end up with the dad in a situation that they have to pay with the child support. But that's just the truth, and that's just something that you're going to kind of have to look at. That's just my personal opinion if you do end up wanting to go through with it.
Yeah. Well, she said that she that the wife trapped him with a child, so I guess they had a one-night stand and she got pregnant or something. However that happened. And she says that she has known this guy before he met his wife, that she was cheating on her previous partner with him before he met his wife, and there's a lot of overlapping going on.
Yeah, a lot of overlapping.
There's a lot of overlapping. Like I understand sex can be like great with a person and it's amazing and all the things, but at the end of the day, he still chose to marry that other woman for whatever reason he decided to marry her, whether it was for the child or more than likely it was for the child's benefit. I mean, you can choose to, like, she asked here is how could she get over someone like that? Like, the only way you can get over is by getting away. You have to leave and be gone, pretty much. Like, you have to give yourself time to get over him on your own, because he has obviously been on her mind for a very long time. So, and the sex being good is also a part of it. Makes it really hard to get over someone. So it's like, he basically, if she really wants to get over him, she has to get away from him. She has to go away, leave that relationship alone, and that's it, because it has to be her choice. He's not going to leave if she's going to be staying there and letting him have sex with her whenever. So.
And what I would say is, which I agree with your position on this a lot more than what I was saying, but it's like, if you're going to do that, I would almost treat the situation as like a widow. It's like you find a way to get over what happened, through some way, some means, and then you kind of start building your life up afterwards. And then after a certain amount of time, your mind tends to shut certain parts out. And this is coming from a person who has talked to a psychologist before about how just kind of the brain works and how it interprets memories and stores memories. Your brain over time will start to fade certain memories away, and you won't be able to ever recall them, which is a sad thing, but it's true.
Yeah.
And that tends to happen with a lot of people who have gone through a horrible breakup, who have gone through situations. It's like, while you remember the person, while you remember who they are, what they look like, probably over time you'll forget certain details about them. You forget certain memories with them. Mostly, it's always the bad memories that go away first, usually, unless it really made an impact on you. But the situation brought up in the topic itself is a pretty tricky one to answer because you're walking a very thin line. You know, it's either you're on this side of the fence or that side of the fence. There's no real middle ground to be had with that one. I feel like you can always make a case for middle ground, but it's not really gonna be too too well supported in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, unless his wife is willing to open up the relationship and let you be the second wife, you know, that's the only middle ground that I can think of.
Yeah.
Because other than that, just keep doing what you're doing and see how far it goes. I don't know.
It's a complicated question.
It's a complicated question, but a very interesting one.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I like that question. It's very difficult, but.
So I guess it's the Second Life tip.
Second Life tip of the week. I sang it for some reason.
So the topic that we decided to talk about this week for Second Life, so first off, for those of you that don't know what Second Life is, it's an online virtual game. The best way to describe it to people without going too much into technicalities is an online chat simulator, basically. There's people in here, you can chat with them, you can find them, you can make friends, have fun, all that good stuff. But the topic that we're going to choose to talk about today is what's called the Places Finder or the search bar. And the reason why we decided to start off with this topic is it kind of encompasses a lot of things when it comes to Second Life. You'll be using the search bar quite a bit. You'll be using a lot of different utilities within Second Life itself to work your way around Second Life, to find friends, to meet people. And usually where you can find this is under the Content tab. So at the top of your screen, there's going to be a button labeled Content, or something of the nature, search bar or something of that, and you click that, and it brings up an endgame menu. From there, it's pretty straightforward. You type in a keyword. So, like, let's say you wanted to find a mall where you can go buy stuff. You type in mall, and it'll give you a list of the most popular ones, and so on and so forth. And as what Second Life is, there's general rated stuff, which is, stuff that's friendly for kids, stuff that you can, that kids can go ahead and do. Moderate is meant for the teenage years, in a sense of, there's a couple more profanic, I don't know exactly how you want to say that word. You know what I'm going after, though.
Yeah. I was like, that's a good question. How do you say that?
Yeah, and then the adult-rated stuff. I will say though, if you are going to be traveling from what are called sims, are basically these are like little places that people own privately, and they'll build anything they really want to on there. If you're going to be traveling from sim to sim, make sure that you're going into the right age group for your age. As Second Life itself has very strict policies when it comes to at least adult-rated stuff, and if you aren't 18 or over, your account can be in jeopardy. And we don't want anyone to have that, so.
No. That is not good.
Yeah. And likewise with the search bar, you can search people's names, you can search, groups, you can search, just about really anything.
Stores,
yeah, you can, and you'll notice that within the search bar, you're getting a lot of different results. And if you really want to, just go ahead and what's called sim hopping, just travel from each one to each one, and just kind of explore. And as you explore, the more people you meet, you'll make friends that way, and you'll have favorite places you want to go and favorite places that you want to hang out. So, I mean, and this is just to get you off of the starting island, which is called Social Island. It's a good way to get you off of there, to get you exploring what Second Life really has to offer. aside from just what you see at base value.
Yeah. You really shouldn't judge Second Life by Social Island. It's like Second Life is so much bigger and so varied. I mean, probably a month ago, I went to a Five Nights at Freddy's sim where they had the the pizza place, and it was
Freddy Fazbear's.
Yeah, the Freddy Fazbear's. It was completely made in Second Life, and they had people who would put on the avatars of the characters and scare the dickens out of you. I took pictures of it. It's really cool.
And that's a good that's a good example of what can be made. So, for example, like I've gone to a My Little Pony sim beforehand where they completely built Ponyville, and they had people role playing as Fluttershy, Twilight, Applejack, all the the main six, and then you had people in the background like the bakery owners, and you had Derpy Hooves, and you had DJ Pone 3, or as most people know her as just Vinyl Scratch sometimes. And it's really cool that people will spend the time and the effort to put that in so they can share their creations with other people.
Yes, it's amazing. Like a long time ago, I was on a sim that was basically what was it? It was like a dairy farm for reasons. I don't know how I got there, but it was a dairy farm, but all of the cows were women lady cows. And they had different sections. They had the breeding cows, they had the milking cows, they had the cows for slaughter. It was weird.
Yeah.
But it's just to show that there's a giant variety of things that you can find. I mean, I'm sure that somewhere there's a sim that is just a sun that you stand on. Probably.
Yeah. And a good place to kind of search to really meet people are clubs. And the reason why I bring that up is a lot of people will go there, and a lot of people will frequent a certain club that they like. And if you find a club that you like and you frequent it, you'll find people. You'll notice people returning. You'll probably make friends with the staff. The staff will probably start to know you, and it creates this kind of nice positive vibe that you'll want in an environment like that.
Yeah, it creates a small community, and you make friends. It's really nice.
Yes.
Nice. And it doesn't always have to be a club. There are RP sims where you can role play as characters. Like, I once was part of a Bleach RP sim where everybody had their own. You were either a Shinigami or a Hollow. I was a Hollow, obviously. I was a teenager. Angst. I was a Hollow, and you would be put into a specific. You wouldn't be put into it. You would choose like a general to follow and a group of people to be with, and you would just RP. Sometimes you would fight with a Shinigami, and if you lost and died, you would have to create another character, and that's just the way that it went. And it was a very interesting world. Because in that sim had a lot of layers, so it had like the human world, which was like a city, and then it had the Shinigami world, and then it had the Hollow world. It was really cool. It was really well distributed and stuff. It was a very interesting place. So there are lots of those. You can find a lot of RP sims.
Yeah, and the cool thing is when you head to a sim, if you're not sure what to do, usually there'll usually be staff on, depending on what time of day you go. Can depend on how many staff are on, and as well as just people that frequent there often. You can always ask them for advice on, hey, what goes on here, what do I do here, what do you guys have to offer, type of thing like that. And that's all dependent on what type of sim you're at, and what sims are your favorites. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But yeah, I feel like that kind of covers the search tab quite well.
Mm-hmm. I believe so. I don't think we left anything out. Let's see. How about let's teach them one simple Second Life thing, which is something very important for when you actually start playing the game. Is let's see how you can improve your avatar.
Alrighty, so in Second Life, one of my other kind of skills that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the podcast is I'm very good at creating outfits. And so with that, you if you want to build an avatar, it doesn't matter what avatar you're building, human, a furry, a goo monster, anything of that sort. One thing that you can do to improve your avatar's look without even changing your avatar at all is color matching. And the rule that I tend to follow that really kind of helps you pull an outfit together and really makes you work and think of how to put this outfit together is color matching. And with color matching, you want to have about like 4 colors that you're going to want to work with, maybe 5 as the upper range. So like let's say your avatar is human, right? You have a nice tan skin, and you're like, okay, I can work with this. With a human, it's pretty simple. You will have around 4 colors to work with. If you have black pants on, you can have like a plaid shirt. Like let's say, so black pants, plaid shirt, that'd be like white and blue then. Then you have like more color to work with, and you can probably have like a red ball cap or something like that. Something of that nature that it would look good, no matter how you styled it, no matter which way. And usually that 4 color rule works pretty well. And for those of you that are in Second Life and that are furries and other creatures of the sort, it kind of gets a little bit more difficult because then you're dealing with your avatar's base colors. So, for example, if you were to take a look at my avatar in SL at one point, depending on which one I'm using, I can be a multitude of colors, but like, let's say my primary color is green, so I try and find ways to either find colors to complement the green or to work around it. And because that green's taking up one of the color slots, again, that's where the 5 is at the upper limit of the stretches because of that rule. So you can still fit 4 colors within an avatar as a furry, but you still want to try and stick it to 4, which means you really only have 3 colors to work with on an outfit. And anything can work. I mean, as long as you color match, it'll make things work a lot better than if you didn't try color matching, if you didn't put even just a little bit of effort into it.
Yes, true. And I know some of you people are probably going to be saying, but where do I get these colored clothes? There's a lot of free clothes on Second Life. A lot. Especially if you're starting with the base avatar. I think in Social Island, do they have free stuff packs, I think?
They may still have free stuff packs.
I think.
If they do not, what you can always do, again, going back to the search bar, you can search up like free malls and stuff, and those are just giant malls that have a slew of free things, anywhere from ball caps to shirts to pants to boots to hats.
Even full avatars sometimes.
Yes, even full avatars.
Yeah. There's a lot of places to get things free. Like, if you want to start off as a furry, probably one of the best places that I know right now that has a lot of free furry stuff has to be Castle Darkhaven. They have a mall area, and in the middle of the mall, they have just boxes of free stuff. And some of the stuff is full furry avatars. It's a really good place to start.
Yeah, and if you're going to Castle Darkhaven, do keep in mind that is an adult-rated sim.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
so do make sure do make sure you check it out, and if you want to, but do keep in mind again, SL does have rules and policies that you do need to kind of tiptoe around if you aren't of age, and if you are of age, then you're completely fine.
Yeah, most malls are
Moderate.
Are moderate. So you should be pretty okay in most malls, especially the free malls. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, color matching, again, it's just 4-ish colors you want to work with. It can be any color combination. As long as you kind of have matching colors, and things of that nature, you want to try and make sure that they're as close to the same color, if not as the same color. So like you can have like a little bit of like an offset of like a light blue to another light blue. A black can be a little bit offset from a black, and so on. As long as it's close enough to the eye that you don't really notice a difference unless you're really looking for it, then you're fine.
Yes, I agree. Okay, next, we have our general furry question, which is just a question that we have heard many times in the furry community, and I am taking this question directly from Facebook, actually. It's
Good old Facebook.
Yeah, good old Facebook. Lots of questions there. So, how do I find furries in my area? A lot of people think this is a really difficult question, but it's not. If you're already on the internet, then you have the best way of finding furries in your area. Like, I need a random city in a random state.
Random city, random state. Let's go ahead and do. Let's go ahead and do Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Okay, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Let's say if you're on Facebook and you want to find furries in Colorado, it's easy. You're just going to type in the Facebook search bar, which is right at the top, Colorado furs, Colorado furries, furries of Colorado, whichever. I'm going to do that right now. Let's see. Colorado furries. Oh, that's a lot of groups, actually. Okay, that's a lot of groups. Let's go with the biggest one, which is Colorado Furries. You click on there. There's even LGBT Colorado Furries. They're all inclusive. And once you get into the base group and you want to find probably in your state, in your city, you join the group, and if they make you wait, well, you wait. And you join the group, and you ask, is there anyone in Colorado Springs? And, it's...
You basically just start a conversation.
You start a conversation. Ask if there's anybody close to your area while already talking in the state. Instead of asking in a general furry group. Because if you're asking in a general furry group, it's very easy for your question to get lost, and you can probably never get a clear answer. So it's best to actually look for groups that already are named Colorado Furries, or Texas Furries, or Rhode Island Furries, or Furries of Canada.
Yeah.
Even. That's the way I found my furry group, because I couldn't find any after I came here to Mexico. So I looked in Latin American furries, didn't find them, didn't find anyone I could talk to, really, because everybody was in their own thing. And then I just decided I'm going to search and see if they have my city. And I look, and I didn't find it, but I did find it on Fur Affinity.
Yeah.
I just typing in the name of my city, and I got a hit. I recognized the area, interestingly enough. And I went to the name of the person. They were in a group. There was my city group. I talked to them. I got in the group, and now I'm one of the organizers.
Nice. I would say that probably another good way to meet furries in your area, and this more or less comes down to if your state has a big enough fan base, and by fan base I mean a big enough community to do this. I happen to live in a state where we are one of the largest furry convention holders in the country, and because of that we tend to get a lot of furry traffic. And I mean by one of the big ones is, there's Arizona, Texas is a big one. I think New York is a big one as well.
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania as well is a big one. So there's a couple big ones out there. And I just happen to live in one of those states, and so if you have access to a venue of that nature, that's always a good place to go. And if you do have the funds, always take a flight out there, have fun. And this specifically for a furry convention. And another way to also meet other people is, again, through more conventions. There's Comic-Cons, there's PAX East, PAX South, PAX Prime. You have the E3 conference, where regardless of who's going to be there, I'm pretty sure you can find someone to hang out with, someone that will share your common interests if you go ahead and head to one of those conventions.
Yeah. I went to San Diego Comic-Con 2 years ago. 2 years ago, because I haven't been able to get tickets for last year or this year. they always got sold out.
They get
But
sold
2
out like
years ago,
instantly.
yeah, I know. But 2 years ago, I was able to get tickets, and I took my fursuit head, which I have. I I I traded a furry who is in my furry group. He made them. He doesn't make them anymore, but he made them just for fun, and I traded a tail for the head. And I wore that to Comic-Con, and I found like 4 furries. And I got their information, and sometimes we talk on Facebook. It's nice.
And and even this advice goes beyond just the furry fandom. If you're in an anime fandom, it applies to the same thing. If you're having trouble finding those people, it's basically take the ways we just mentioned here and just switch out the word furry with whatever fandom you're part of, and you can pretty much find almost anything you want to at that point.
Yeah, that's very true. And if you're not 100% sure if your state has a furry convention, you can always type into Google list of furry conventions, and I think they have.
Or just search by your state. Like a good example is literally if you're looking for a furry convention, let's say in Texas, you say Texas Furry Convention, and if anything's there, it'll pop up. Usually it's always done by the same people, and they have an official website already set up. And, they'll always give you dates and times of when that'll be happening, when
the tickets are for sale, and all of that.
I will say, though, if you are going to an actual location with a furry convention or something of the nature where you're bringing like a fursuit head or paws or tail or feet, something to say, hey, look, I'm a furry, cool, you're going out there and showing your furry pride. Do keep in mind, though, that it can get hot. If you aren't drinking water, if you aren't properly prepared to go, you might want to go ahead and make sure you are before you head out there.
Yeah, I can really, I can agree with this 100%, because when I went to Comic-Con, they have that convention center cold. It is cold in there, and I had just my fursuit head on and paws, I think. That's all I had on, and I was sweating. And anytime I took the head off, it was cold. It was just so cold in that convention center. But in the head, it was so hot. It was just so hot, and I was lucky enough that I went with my husband, and he was the one that made sure that I was drinking water, and he made sure that I didn't wander off to a random place. So it's good to, if you can, go with someone, because they can take care of you and make sure that you're drinking water and eating and sleeping, because they're important. You need to eat, sleep, and drink, and shower.
And that's just all things that you can do once you meet people, or once you head there and meet people.
Yeah, there's always someone that will probably be willing to take care of you if you make a good enough friend. But don't expect everyone to take care of you, because the bystander effect is a thing. If you faint, and people don't realize that it's an actual problem, they probably won't do anything. Because that's just the way that life works, sadly. But yeah, that's basically how you meet people in your respective areas. It's not difficult to do once you actually start doing it. The only way that you can't do it is if you don't try. 'Cause I remember a while ago that when someone was constantly asking on Facebook, how do I find people in this area? And I kept telling them, search with the Facebook bar. And they said, no, I tried that already. I didn't find anything. And I was able to find like 5 groups that were in their general area. So it's nearly impossible to not find anyone in your area. This, nowadays, anyway.
Yeah. And I guess one more furry question that I want to bring to the table, is I always hear people ask about, well, how do I go ahead and create an OC? How do I go ahead and create my persona if you haven't done that already? And one way I always give people an option to do is, so you think of your favorite animal. You say, what is my favorite animal? It could be as simple as a fox or a wolf, general something like that, or something as complex as, like a dragon or something of that nature. And then you basically say, okay, well, what are my colors I would like my dragon to be, my fox to be, something of that nature, right? Um, and that's just kind of like a launch pad, honestly. It's not like direct device. It's more or less a creative device thinking. And that's if you're visually creating. The way I personally like to create my
Persona.
my persona, my OCs. Sorry, my was blanking there. Is what I'll do is I'll do how a D&D character would do it. You create your character. You say, well, this is my race. You say these are the traits, and you kind of give a verbal description. You give a written description of just exactly what is the persona, the OC you are trying to create. And that in itself, that in itself can be very daunting to some people. But
Yeah, especially if you have trouble being creative. Everyone can be creative, but sometimes it's hard because you're trying to create the character that's going to represent you, even if temporarily, in the furry community. So it's like, sometimes you have to think a lot, but it's not always necessary. Like, I might as well give the full story of how I made my persona. It was a long time ago, but when I made my persona, I actually started making her in Secondlife. If you can believe that. That's how I got into the furry fandom. And I started out using everybody's favorite character, Renamon. I used her for everything, and then eventually I decided I wanted my own character. So I went and I got a basic brown fox they had, and I gave her hair, and I changed her shape, and I added horns for some reason, and I dressed her in clothes, and my first persona became that brown fox for a little while. And then I think that I only had her brown for maybe a year. I'd have to check my Fur Affinity because that's where I have all of the pictures. And she was brown, and then I stopped using Secondlife, but I still wanted to be part of the fandom. So I was able to, I got onto DeviantArt, I think, and I was drawing Renamon a lot, and then I decided I was going to make my own Renamon character, so I did. And I made her with green gloves instead of purple gloves. I made her a darker yellow, almost orange, and I think I got rid of her, like, fin thingies, whatever they're called. And then I started turning her into a regular fox, and I changed the colors of her ears to, like, purple, and then she ended up with green, like neon green tips for some reason. And then I still kept the chest fluff, I kept the face of Renamon, and then eventually I turned it into a normal fox. And then I got rid of the gloves, but I kept the color markings, not green, purple, and not Renamon purple, dark purple, like a royal purple. So she has the Renamon markings on her arms, but it's markings, they're not gloves. Even though she looks like she has sleeves. It's weird. I don't know, I'm weird. And so she has the glove markings. She has 5 fingers. She doesn't have 3. I kept changing her over the years. I think over a period of maybe 6 years, she was like changing, and probably barely, I want to say 3 years ago is when I finally decided that that I wanted to really work on her. I said I was going to make her the way I wanted to make. So I kept the base shape and I added a paw print on her butt because, I'm classy. And a tattoo on her ear. And I gave her hair. And I put, what's it called? Cheyenne, which is like a light blue with greenish. A light Cheyenne stripe all the way down her back and even onto her tail, which a lot of people mistake for an avatar stripe, but I honestly didn't even think of that when I put it on her. I just thought it looked pretty. And so she has that stripe, and she has a yellow tail with a white tip and like pink between the yellow and the white. So that's what she looks like, kind of. And she has a classic Renamon like leg thing going on where it goes from yellow to white, but her toes are black because she's different. and I think barely last year I turned her into a kitsune. I gave her 5 tails, and I gave her 5 tails because of a dream I had.
Fat kid fox.
Yeah, she just, like, it was a weird dream. I was fighting wizards, and every time I beat a wizard, I ended up with another tail, and then by the end I had 5. And I said, I'm going to put it on her, and then I did, and she has the 5 tails now. That's just how it happened. And so it's not always like you start one day, and then boom, you have your persona. Mine took years in development to end up where she is right now. And she might change in the future. I don't know, but I'm planning on getting her tattooed on my body. That's
Nice.
going to happen. I'm going to probably put her on the back of my neck. I already have it semi-drawn. I'll send it to you, Sale. I have it somewhere.
Okay.
But it's like, I'm going to end up putting that. I don't know if she'll end up with more tails in the future, but she's at the stage she's at right now. I have no idea where she got the red eyes, though. It just happened.
I can go through my character process if you want me to.
Sure. Let's see how it happened with you.
So for me, I'll go ahead and do my original persona, which is named Chap the Otter.
You were so cute. I gotta make a mod for you with a. I'm gonna do that.
I gotta get a new avatar for Secondlife.
Yeah.
Like a new one. But besides the point, rambling aside.
Rambling.
So what happened was back in middle school, I noticed that I had a big love for animals, a bit more than most people did. Later on, found the furry fandom, all the general stuff that usually happens when people get furry fandom.
You get overwhelmed and then.
Yeah. So what happened was, my friend one day pointed out to me that I was really, really good at swimming, and I was able to kind of stay in colder waters when other people wouldn't. And she was like, "You're just like an otter." You have to remember my friend's from Canada, and she has a lot of otters out there, sea otters to be more exact, and some river otters. So, I figured she knew what she was talking about.
Of course.
So later that day, funny enough, I went ahead and I was like, she said I look like, I'm like an otter. And just out of my brain came Chap. I basically said I'm starting with an otter. So, I started with my race again. I started with my race, and again, descriptive building because I'm a D&D player. Dungeons and Dragons for you that don't know what D&D is, but I'm a D&D player. So, started with an otter, basically said, well, I don't want him to be classically brown colored. I don't want it to be like a black color. I felt like it was a bit too classic, even though there weren't too many furry avatars out there at the one point. So I went ahead and I made him kind of this teal bluish color. And then on top of that, little black markings here and there, like on the nose, the tips of the ears, the tail, and then down my sides, I had like little I wouldn't call them like tiger markings, but definitely like distinguished stripes going down my sides. And it just kind of out of that was born Chap the Otter. And You know, it's as simple as something that's like that. It's it's basically just sat down one day and poof, there it went. Um, but if I was to go into more like complex detail, I would probably have to go into one of my Second Life avatars. And for example, I would use Sail to be the best way to describe this. So, Sail went through many different iterations. First off, when it got what's called the Kemono avatar, it's a very customizable avatar in Second Life. You can do really almost anything you want with it. That's just how customizable it is. And you can get you into human, furry, anything really. Besides the point, start with the base Kemono avatar. Went ahead, got a couple of cool dresses for it, a couple cool, like cargo shorts, all that good stuff. And then over time, I just found better and better mods for it. And at this point, I now have two main looks for my avatar. I have this kind of like light blue whitish sky dragon, which is really petite, really small, has tiny little chibi wings, with like hair that's curled onto one side with like purple tips. Love it so much. And then I have one that Cherry can link at one point that was another version of her. And to give credit to the makers, both of those mods were made by FEOH, which is the Drizzle mod, which is what I'm about to talk about, and the one that the Sky Dragon was made by a person named Nutbusters. So to give credit to the artists and the creators right there, but for the Drizzle mod, it's basically rainbow colored avatar with spikes down the back and a curly tail.
Oh yeah, I remember that avatar.
And it's really really cool, and it's very very interesting. It's really cool to see how an avatar can develop over time. And I didn't sit down and didn't say I want to make this avatar. It was just the evolution of how I got into Second Life, and just kind of what became of it. And because I'm really big into costumes and outfits and stuff like that, it kind of also led to me being able to give advice on outfit making, and I've helped a couple friends with better outfits and stuff like that. So
yes, you have.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's everybody has their own way of how they ended up with their persona if they have one. Like blah, 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 blah. Words. Like, I have known a few people that actually have their personas made for them, or they buy them. You can buy characters. They're called adopts, and you just buy the character as it is, and you work from there. Like for instance, my husband has a persona, but he didn't make it. I made it because I'm bad at drawing humans, so I made him a character so that he would so that I could draw him and me together. And so he is a panda, and I am a kitsune. And it works. And when I started drawing him as a panda, like almost that week, a lot of people started comparing him to a panda for some reason. And so it was like,
Interesting.
It was like, yeah, he's a panda. A lot of people were saying he was a panda. Like, I think one of his cousins gave him a stuffed panda. I have it somewhere. Our first child gave him a stuffed panda and said, "Here, this reminded me of you." And so I was like, "Yep, I chose correctly. He's a panda." And then ever since we started watching Kung Fu Panda, it just got worse. Because my husband is not Kung Fu. He's a martial arts geek. So it like now for some reason his persona has this. It's starting to evolve with this weird backstory of its own, where he's kind of from the Kung Fu Panda universe, so he can use chi, and it's just it's weird. And even with my My Little Pony Sona, my pony Sona, Jade, he is a different species with with her also. Before he used to be a bear, but now he's a buffalo.
Buffalo, nice.
Yeah, he's a buffalo that has gotten Pegasus wings grafted onto his back.
Interesting.
So his name is Buffalo Wing.
Buffalo Wing.
The wings don't even match his.
Oh my gosh.
So they work. He can't fly, but they move. So
I could just imagine like this giant buffalo with like the tiniest wings.
It has tiny wings.
It's almost like oh gosh, was that ultra like muscular like Pegasus in the show?
I think the fandom calls him Snowflake, but I think in canon his name is, oh my gosh, what's his name?
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know, it's the one that goes, yeah, I don't remember his name.
I could just imagine that's what your husband looks like with his OC.
Kind of. But that's just sometimes how personas happen. Someone gives it to you and it fits, and it just goes from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well, I do to say I think this has been a very good first podcast.
Yes, I believe it has. I think we should have probably not a word from our sponsors, but let's give our sponsors a nice little plug. We are sponsored by Seductive Kawaii, which is a club in Second Life that both me and Sail work at. It's not just a club, it's a mall. It has things, you can buy them. And we're also like semi-sponsored. Like, it's not real sponsorship. We just want to plug them whenever we can. We have Seductive Kawaii, and I had another one and I totally forgot it.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
Volcar Cartel Boss?
Yes. Volcar Cartel Boss.
Oh gosh. Perfect plug-in. Perfect plug-in.
Well, if you guys want to know what the podcast was I was talking about earlier, it's called, let me check my iPad. I want to get the name right. I just want to get the name right.
And for those that can hear clicking, it's because I have a mechanical keyboard.
Yeah.
Because you've heard random clicking throughout the podcast, that is the reason of the clicking. It's not your earbuds, I swear.
Yeah. No, your earbuds are not breaking.
At least we hope.
Oh, that would be scary. Hurry, iPad. Okay. It is called... Take your time. It's not like I need it. Okay, it's called The Savage Lovecast. He basically gives out free relationship and sex advice. And so a lot of the information I get from him. He's a very masculine gay man. He's one of those gay men that doesn't know anything about fashion, and he doesn't care about the theater. So he's one of those.
Just yays.
Yays, but he's got a lot of knowledge under his belt and years besides that. So I really recommend his podcast. Is there anything you recommend, Sale?
Anything that I recommend? I recommend that go ahead and check out Second Life. If you have any questions about anything, both of our avatars are able to be found in Second Life. We are open to IMs in Second Life, and as well as where we post this podcast. Again, leave your comments down below, or leave your comments wherever the comment section is. And we'll go ahead and answer your comments in the next time. We'll pull a select few of our favorite, just so you know. So if you have a question you really want to get down, and the more and more podcasts we do, just keep leaving that same question down there, and we'll get to it at some point. If not, the next podcast by the time you post it. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll always read your comments. So even if we cannot answer your question on the podcast, we might answer it via the comment section, probably. If it's a question that we've already answered on the podcast, we will just tell you to watch the podcast. Yeah, that's basically it. So it's been good here on Deer2Deer. I am the Deer Cherry, and you are the Deer Sail.
Yes. Alrighty.
And we are happy to have had you with us for however long this was. I was not counting it.
I think we've been going for around an hour 30-ish.
Yeah, I think so.
Think so.
We'll check.
We'll find out later.
We'll find out later. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.